The scars on Jack Mercer's body told stories his lips refused to share. At 58, the former Marine had spent more time with ghosts than with the living. The shelter worker warned him, this dog was untrainable, aggressive, a lost cause. Perfect, Jack thought. They'd be two broken souls under one roof. In the dim light of his Montana cabin, Jack extended his hand to the Belgian Malinois with the fierce eyes. The dog lunged, teeth bared. 3 weeks of patience yielded nothing, but destroyed furniture and deepening frustration. Until one morning, Jack knocked over his coffee and cursed in Russian, a language he'd learned during his final deployment. The dog's ears perked up, its posture changed completely. "Sest," Jack whispered, and the dog sat immediately. What dark? History connected this animal to Russia. Could the dog's mysterious past put them both in danger? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Jack Mercer's morning ritual never varied. Up at 500, coffee, brewed strong enough to stand a spoon in, then a 3-mile walk regardless of Montana's merciless weather. The routine kept the demons at bay, most days. His cabin sat nestled against the pines, 20 acres and 2 miles from the nearest neighbor. Just how he liked it, the solitude was both his salvation and his prison. The military shadow box mounted above his fireplace gathered dust. 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, various campaign medals, relics from another life. Jack rarely looked at them anymore. The real souvenirs of 30 years' service were etched into his body. The jagged scar running from sternum to navel, the puckered divot in his left thigh, the persistent limp. "You're isolating again," Dr. Yamamoto had said during their last VA session. The therapist's voice always maintained that practiced evenness that irritated Jack. "Isolation feeds depression, Jack. You need connection." "I'm connected just fine," Jack had replied, gesturing vaguely at his surroundings. "Got the mountains, got peace and quiet. I mean living connections, human or otherwise." Jack had grunted non-committally, but the suggestion had lodged itself in his mind like shrapnel, which is how he found himself 1 week later, standing in the sterile hallway of the government facility housing retired military and police dogs. The sharp antiseptic smell reminded him of field hospitals. Mr. Mercer, a compact Asian woman in her 40s, approached, clipboard in hand. "I'm Miranda Chen, shelter director. Your service record is impressive." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "That was another lifetime ago." Miranda nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Most of our animals find homes with former handlers, but you're interested in a new adoption." "Just looking," Jack said, though they both knew he wouldn't have driven 2 hours if he were just looking. "We have several well-adjusted shepherds and retrievers that would—" "What about the difficult ones?" Jack interrupted. Miranda's professional smile faltered. "We do have some dogs with challenges, but I don't typically recommend them for first-time adopters. I've handled difficult cases before, human and otherwise." Something in his tone must have convinced her. "Follow me." She led him past rows of kennels where dogs barked and wagged hopefully. Jack noticed how Miranda greeted each by name. They stopped at the end of the corridor, before a kennel set apart from the others. "This is Beast," Miranda said, her voice dropping. "Belgian Malinois, approximately 5 years old. He's been returned 3 times. Jack peered through the chain. Link, unlike the other dogs, this one made no sound. It stood perfectly still, ears forward, eyes locked on Jack with an intensity that felt almost familiar. The dog's lean body was a coiled spring, muscles defined beneath its fawn coat. Why Beast? That's what his last handler called him. His original name is redacted in his file. Jack raised an eyebrow. Redacted? He came from overseas. Some military working dogs have classified backgrounds. Miranda flipped through papers on her clipboard. He's high drive, aggressive with strangers, and doesn't respond well to standard training techniques. Between us, he's scheduled for euthanasia next week if not placed. Jack recognized something in the dog's amber eyes. Not aggression, vigilance. The hyper-awareness of a soldier who'd seen too much. "I'll take him," Jack said. Miranda looked startled. "Mr. Mercer, I strongly advise against it. This isn't a dog that needs a home. This is a dog that needs rehabilitation by an expert." Jack met her gaze steadily. "Then it's a good match. Because I'm not a man who needs a pet. I'm a man who needs a purpose." The paperwork took an hour, longer than Jack expected for a dog no one wanted. Miranda walked him through a stack of liability waivers, cautionary instructions, and a thin folder containing Beast's limited history. "This is everything we have on him," she said, sliding the folder across her desk. "Transferred from an overseas base in Eastern Europe 18 months ago. No training manual, no complete medical records." Jack flipped through the sparse documents. Not much to go on. Military dogs with specialized training often come with gaps in their records. Miranda's tone suggested this wasn't unusual. "We do know he's been extensively trained, but his triggers and commands are inconsistent." Jack studied a photo clipped to the inside cover, Beast in tactical gear, alongside blurred figures with faces redacted. Any idea what he was trained for? Protection. And detection, most likely. Miranda hesitated. "I should warn you, he's damaged goods, Mr. Mercer." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Makes two of us." The ride home was tense. Beast sat rigidly in the back of Jack's pickup, secured by a specialized harness Miranda had provided. His eyes never left Jack, tracking every movement like a sniper acquiring a target. Back at the cabin, Jack set out water and food in the kitchen, then removed Beast's leash. The dog immediately conducted a methodical sweep of the perimeter, investigating each room with military precision. Jack recognized the behavior, clearing a space, assessing entry and exit points. Not typical dog behavior. Military training. "Tent." Beast finished. He positioned himself in the corner of the living room with the best sightlines to both the front door and windows. He didn't relax, didn't lie down, just watched. "You can stand down, soldier," Jack said quietly. "No threats here." Beast didn't react. Jack tried standard commands. "Sit, stay, come," first in English, then in the international commands sometimes. Used for working dogs. Beast remained motionless, ignoring both words and hand signals. When Jack approached with food, Beast growled, a low, warning rumble. Jack recognized that too. Not aggression, boundary setting. "Fair enough," Jack said, placing the bowl halfway between them and retreating. "Your move." As darkness fell, a truck rumbled up the gravel drive. Beast was on his feet instantly, a different growl now, deeper, more threatening. Jack glanced out the window. "Just my neighbor, stand down." Beast didn't stand down. Tom Reeves was a fellow veteran, 20 years in the Army Corps of Engineers. He visited once a week with supplies and fishing reports. Like Jack, he preferred solitude, but understood the importance of checking in. "So this is the new recruit," Tom said, wisely remaining in the doorway. He studied Beast, who stood alert, muscles tensed. "Intense, fella. We're figuring each other out," Jack replied. "Military dog?" Tom asked, noticing Beast's posture. "Former. Working dog. Classified background." Tom raised an eyebrow. "You getting into secrets again, Mercer?" Just giving him a second chance. After Tom left, Jack settled into his recliner with a dog training manual he'd ordered weeks earlier, preparing for this moment. Beast remained in his corner, refusing food, refusing interaction. Around midnight, Jack finally headed to bed, leaving Beast's food untouched on the floor. He didn't try to coax the dog to a bed or crate. Some battles weren't worth fighting on day one. In the pre-dawn hours, Jack woke to a sound. Alert instantly. Old habits. He found Beast in the exact same position, eyes gleaming in the darkness, watching the door. Neither of them had slept. Days bled into a week, then two. Jack's living room became a fortress of dog training books, their pages dog-eared and highlighted, margins filled with notes. Each morning, he attempted a new approach with Beast. working through techniques designed for traumatized animals. The dog remained impenetrable. He ate only when Jack left the room, used the doggy door Jack installed without prompting, and maintained his vigilant post in the living room corner. The only progress was that Beast no longer growled when Jack moved around the cabin. Small victories, Jack thought. The destruction began on day 10. Jack returned from chopping wood to find his couch cushions eviscerated, stuffing scattered like snow across the cabin floor. Beast sat amid the carnage, expressionless. "Bored, are we?" Jack asked, unsurprised. High-drive working dogs needed stimulation. The next day, he came back from getting the mail to discover his boots methodically dismantled, leather straps shredded with surgical precision. On day 14, it was a stack of books. Day 15, the bathroom towels. Jack remained patient. He didn't raise his voice or make sudden movements. He remembered his own reintegration, the anger, the displacement, the need to destroy something to feel in control. He built Beast an outdoor obstacle course using techniques from the books. Hoping physical exertion might help, Beast ignored it completely. "He needs structure," Tom suggested during his weekly visit, watching from a safe distance as Beast disassembled a rope toy with mechanical efficiency. Military dogs function on routine and purpose. "What do you think I've been trying to establish?" Jack retorted, frustration edging his voice. Tom shrugged. "Maybe he doesn't trust your authority yet. Dogs like that are one-handler animals. You're trying to replace someone." The words struck uncomfortably close to home. How many times had Jack resented his post-deployment therapists, silently challenging their authority to understand what he'd experienced? At the 3-week mark, Miranda showed up for her scheduled welfare check. Beast went rigid when her car pulled up, backing into his corner. "How's our problem, child?" she asked, stepping cautiously inside. Jack gestured to the latest. Destruction, his recliner now missing an armrest. Expressing himself, Miranda surveyed the scene, then studied Beast. "Has he shown any aggression toward you?" "Boundaries, not aggression." She nodded. "That's something. But Jack, I need to be honest. The trial period ends in 1 week. If he's not showing improvement, we should consider other options." "You mean euthanasia or a specialized rehabilitation facility?" "Some dogs are too damaged by their training to function as companions." Jack felt a flash of anger. "He's not broken, he's adapting." After Miranda left, Jack sat on the floor 6 feet from Beast, the distance the dog seemed to tolerate. "I get it," he said quietly. "Nothing makes sense anymore. The skills that kept you alive don't work here. The rules are different and no one gave you the manual." Beast watched him, amber eyes unblinking. "I'm not giving up on you." Jack set a bowl of food between them, closer than he'd tried before. To his surprise, Beast inched forward, maintaining eye contact, and began to eat while Jack remained still. A breakthrough, small, but real. Later that evening, Jack called an old Marine buddy who'd worked with the K9 units. "I need everything you know about military working dogs," Jack said without preamble, "particularly those with classified backgrounds." "This about your new roommate?" his friend asked. "The one eating your furniture?" "He's starting to trust me. But there's something in his training I'm missing. I'll see what I can dig up." "But Jack, if his background is classified, there might be a reason." Jack glanced at Beast, who sat alert by the window. "I'm counting on it." The morning that changed everything began like any other. Jack rose before dawn, put coffee on to brew, and measured out Beast's kibble. The dog watched from his usual corner, maintaining the invisible boundary between them. Jack reached for his favorite mug, a faded souvenir from Moscow with Cyrillic lettering, a relic from his final deployment. As he poured, the phone rang, startling him. Hot coffee splashed across his hand and the counter. "Chort was me!" he cursed reflexively in Russian, a language he'd learned during a joint operation years ago. The burn stung. But what stopped Jack cold was Beast's reaction. The dog's ears snapped forward, his posture transformed instantly from guarded to attentive. Jack stared, coffee forgotten. "Beast?" The dog remained alert, watching Jack with newfound interest. Slowly, deliberately. Jack tried something. Sest, he said. The Russian command for sit. Beast sat immediately. Jack's mind raced. He tried another command. Lejat, lie down. Beast dropped to his belly, eyes still locked on Jack's. Komne, come. Beast approached, stopping. Precisely 1 foot away, a formal heel position. Jack's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the dog's collar, turning the metal tag to examine it more closely. The worn insignia he'd previously dismissed as standard military markings now took on new significance. The partial serial number was accompanied by Cyrillic characters, mostly scratched away. "You're Russian-trained," Jack murmured. "That's why you wouldn't respond." He tried more commands, each met with perfect obedience. Stay, watch, guard. Beast performed flawlessly, like a machine suddenly provided the correct operating code. Jack's mind filled with questions. Military working dogs were valuable assets, meticulously documented. A Russian-trained dog transferring to US forces would require extensive paperwork, training translations, handler notes. None of that had been in Beast's file, which meant either staggering incompetence, unlikely, or deliberate obfuscation. Jack studied the dog, now sitting attentively before him. Not just any military working dog, but one trained by Russian special forces or intelligence. The implications were troubling. Jack went to his closet, digging through an old footlocker until he found a worn notebook filled with Russian vocabulary, a study aid from his deployment. He spent the morning testing commands, discovering Beast's extensive repertoire. The dog could search for explosives, track scents, attack on command, and perform complex tactical maneuvers. Most unsettling were the stealth commands, signals to move silently, to disable without sound, to create diversions. These weren't standard military police dog skills. This was special operations training. By noon, Jack had compiled a list of working commands. Beast remained engaged, energized by finally being understood. The transformation was remarkable, from sullen, destructive prisoner to attentive, capable partner. When Jack eventually put down the notebook and sat on the couch, Beast hesitated, then approached. For the first time, the dog voluntarily decreased, the distance between them settling on the floor near Jack's feet. "Who were you before?" Jack asked quietly. "And why did they want your past erased?" Beast tilted his head, amber eyes intelligent but offering no answers. Jack retrieved Beast's file again, examining every page with new scrutiny. The redactions, the missing documentation, the deliberate gaps, all pointed to something beyond. Standard military protocols. On the transfer form, a partial serial number caught his attention. He compared it to the worn tag on Beast's collar. They matched, except the collar contained additional digits that had been omitted from the paperwork. Jack pulled out his phone and took photos of both. He sent them to his Marine contact with a simple message. "Need to know what this sequence means? Urgent." Then he knelt before Beast, meeting those watchful eyes. "Someone went to a lot of trouble to hide what you are," he said softly. "Question is, are they still looking for you?" Jack's phone rang at 200. Military habit had him awake instantly, reaching for the device before the second ring. "This is Mercer." "Jesus, Jack." The voice belonged to Mike Callahan, his former Marine buddy now working at Pentagon Records. "What the hell have you gotten into?" Jack sat up. Beast, who had taken to sleeping near the bedroom door, was already alert. "Talk to me, Mike. That serial number you sent, I ran it through our database. Got flagged immediately. As in red flagged by people who don't issue red flags lightly." Jack's stomach tightened. "What's it connected to?" "Can't say over an unsecured line." Mike's voice dropped. "But I accessed the partial file before it locked me out. Your dog was a part of a joint operation. US-Russian intelligence cooperation. What kind of operation?" "Classified beyond my clearance, but the dates align with your final deployment. Operation Frost Bridge." Jack felt a chill. Operation Frost Bridge had been a counter-terrorism mission gone sideways. A leak, an ambush, 3 good men lost. Jack had taken shrapnel that ended his career. The investigation had been shut down abruptly, the findings sealed. "There's more," Mike continued. "The transfer paperwork was authorized under Project Cerberus. Mean anything to you?" "No." "Me neither, but it's got heavyweight signatures attached. This wasn't just some military working dog reassignment, Jack. Someone wanted this animal stateside. Or wanted him gone from the original program," Jack mused. "Maybe." "Listen, Jack," Mike hesitated. "My system shows 3 other people have searched this serial number in the past month. Recent interest." Jack moved to the window, scanning the darkness beyond his property. "Any names?" "No, but one search came from Langley, CIA." Jack's mind worked through implications. "Mike, I need everything you can get on Project Cerberus. That's the thing, Jack. I tried. It's compartmentalized, black budget stuff." Mike's voice tightened. "You need to consider that this dog might be more than just property. He might be evidence." "Of what?" "Whatever got buried after Frost Bridge." A pause. "Jack, I'm telling you, as a friend, walk away. Return the dog to the shelter. Some secrets aren't worth uncovering." After hanging up, Jack stood motionless in the dark. Beast watched him, seemingly aware of his agitation. Jack checked his security system. A habit. From his later years of service when paranoia had proved justified more than once. The perimeter cameras showed nothing unusual, but something felt off. At first light, he drove down his long driveway to check the main road. There, half hidden at a turnout a quarter-mile away, sat a black SUV with government plates. Jack drove past without slowing, but his mind catalogued details. 2 occupants, no agency markings, windows too darkly tinted to be standard issue, surveillance. Back at the cabin, Jack methodically went through Beast's collar again. The tag was military-grade stainless steel, designed to withstand extreme conditions. The scratched insignia nagged at him. Using a magnifying glass, he could make out partial symbols beneath the deliberate damage, what looked like a 3-headed dog design, Cerberus, the 3-headed hound of Greek mythology that guarded the underworld. Jack booted up his rarely used laptop and searched for information on military canine programs. Nothing unusual appeared. He tried various combinations with Cerberus and Russian joint operations. Still nothing beyond mythology references. Whatever Project Cerberus was, it didn't exist in public records. Jack's phone pinged with a text from Mike. "Incoming call traced. My access revoked. Watch your 6. As if understanding the tension, Beast moved closer to Jack, body angled protectively. Jack rested a hand briefly on the dog's head, their first real contact. "Looks like we've stirred up a hornet's nest, my friend." Beast's ears twitched toward the window. Outside, gravel crunched under tires as a vehicle approached. Jack checked the security camera feed. Miranda Chen's shelter van was coming up the drive. Except Miranda's scheduled visit wasn't until next week. Jack positioned Beast behind the door. With a quiet, wait, then grabbed his sidearm from the lockbox, old instincts taking over. He tucked the weapon into his waistband at the small of his back, concealed but accessible. Miranda looked harried when he opened the door, her usual composed demeanor frayed at the edges. "Jack, sorry for dropping by unannounced." Her eyes darted past him, scanning the cabin interior. "Just wanted to check on Beast's progress." 3 days early, Jack noted, not moving from the doorway. Miranda smiled tightly. "I was in the area. May I come in?" Jack stepped aside, watching her body language. Something was off. She moved too deliberately, her attention too focused on Beast, who remained perfectly still in his assigned position. "He seems calmer." She observed. "We've had a breakthrough," Jack said carefully. "Found his training language." Miranda's reaction was almost imperceptible, a slight stiffening quickly masked. "Oh? What language?" "Russian." She nodded, a beat too quickly. "That makes sense. Many military working dogs come from Eastern European breeding programs. Odd that it wasn't in his file. Miranda shrugged. Files get lost in transfers, military bureaucracy. You see that a lot? Highly trained dogs with redacted backgrounds and missing documentation? Her smile thinned. More often than you'd think. Jack studied her. Miranda Chen had struck him as meticulous, by the book, not someone who would accept missing paperwork on valuable military assets, unless she knew more than she was saying. Actually, she continued, that's partly why I'm here. I received a call from the Pentagon asking about Beast's placement. Apparently, there's been some administrative mix-up. They're requesting his return for proper reassignment. Mix-up, Jack repeated flatly. These things happen. Miranda wasn't meeting his eyes now. I'll need to take him back today. The adoption hasn't been finalized anyway. Jack felt Beast shift slightly behind him, responding to his tension. Who exactly called from the Pentagon? I didn't catch the name. Someone from Canine Services. A lie. Jack was certain now. Pentagon Canine Services would have specific protocols, named contacts, and they wouldn't care about a dog scheduled for euthanasia due to behavioral issues. He's settling in well, Jack said. I'd prefer to complete the adoption as planned. Miranda's friendly facade hardened slightly. I'm afraid that's not possible. There are protocols when it comes to specialized working dogs. Specialized how? She ignored the question. Jack, don't make this difficult. Beast isn't a pet. He's government property with specific handling requirements. Government property, Jack echoed. American government or Russian? Miranda's expression flickered. I need to take the dog, Jack. Not happening. Jack shifted his stance subtly, a defensive position. Something's not right here, Miranda, and until I know what it is, Beast stays with me. Her hand moved toward her purse. Jack tensed, but she only withdrew a business card, placing it on the side table. This isn't over. You'll be hearing from my superiors. Her voice had changed, harder now, the shelter director persona dropping away. For your own safety, don't dig any deeper into this dog's background. After she left, Jack watched through the window as she made a call from her van, gesturing emphatically. When she drove away, he instructed Beast to check the cabin's perimeter, watching with grim satisfaction as the dog executed a perfect security sweep. Jack retrieved his Russian-language dictionary and a notebook, then sat at the kitchen table. If Miranda's superiors were coming, he needed to be prepared. He began systematically documenting every Russian command Beast responded to, creating his own training manual. Golas, he commanded, speak. Beast gave a short, controlled bark. Tico, quiet. Beast fell silent. For 2 hours, they worked through commands, tracking, attacking, defending, searching. Beast's training was comprehensive, far beyond standard military applications. This was a dog designed for covert operations, for combat in civilian environments. Jack rubbed his face tiredly. Whatever Project Cerberus was, it had created a weapon, not just a working dog, and someone wanted that weapon back. Jack didn't wait for Miranda's superiors to make their move. By nightfall, he and Beast were heading north in his pickup, the essential supplies hastily packed in the truck bed. The cabin's security system would alert him to any visitors, and Tom had agreed to keep an eye on the property. Just like old times, Jack muttered as they crossed the county line. Moving at night, watching our six. Beast sat in the passenger seat now, alert but calm. The dog seemed to understand. They were in operational mode. Jack's destination was Pine Ridge Veterinary Clinic, a small practice some 40 miles away. He'd called ahead to the after-hours number, requesting an emergency appointment for a new rescue dog. The woman who answered had a faint Eastern European accent that prompted Jack to ask if she spoke Russian. Her surprised "da" sealed his decision. Dr. Elena Petrov was closing up when they arrived. She was in her mid-40s with prematurely silver hair pulled back in a practical bun, her movements precise and economical as she ushered them inside. "So this is the patient," she said, observing Beast with a professional eye. Her accent was subtle but unmistakable to Jack's trained ear. "What seems to be the problem?" "I'm concerned about a microchip," Jack explained. "Standard procedure is to scan new rescues, but his background is complicated." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Complicated? How?" Jack made a calculated decision. "He's Russian-trained, military working dog." She absorbed this without surprise. "That explains his bearing. Malinois are favorites for special operations. Very intelligent, very driven." She approached Beast cautiously. "May I?" Jack gave Beast the Russian command to allow handling. "You." Dog remained still as Elena ran expert hands over his muscular frame. "Excellent physical condition," she noted. "Let's check for that chip." She retrieved a handheld scanner, passing it over Beast's shoulders and neck. When it beeped near his left shoulder blade, her expression changed. "That's odd. What is it?" She showed Jack the reader display. Instead of a standard numeric code, the screen displayed a series of encrypted characters. "I've never seen a chip like this," she said. "Military working dogs have identification chips, yes, but they use a standardized system." She tried scanning again with the same result. "Could it be Russian technology?" Jack asked. Elena's gaze sharpened. "Possibly, but this is beyond standard. Russian military protocol, too." She studied Beast with renewed interest. "Where did you get him?" "Government shelter." His records were heavily redacted. "And you're certain he's Russian-trained?" Jack nodded. "He only responds to Russian commands, specialized ones." Elena set down the scanner. "Mr. Mercer, I trained as a veterinarian in Moscow before emigrating. I worked with police dogs, occasionally military ones. This," she gestured to the scanner, "this is something else. Can you help me figure out what's on that chip?" She considered this. "I have a colleague who specializes in microchip technology. I can make some calls." A pause. "But perhaps the better question is, do you really want to know? Military secrets rarely come without complications." "It's already complicated," Jack said grimly. "Someone tried to reclaim him today. Someone who lied about who they were and why they wanted him." Elena's expression darkened. "Then perhaps it's good you brought him here." She moved to the window, checking the empty parking lot. "I can keep him overnight. My apartment is above the clinic. You should find somewhere to stay that isn't obvious. I can't ask you to take that risk. You're not asking, I'm offering." Her eyes held his steadily. "I recognize a man who knows what he's doing, Mr. Mercer. Military, Marines, retired." She nodded. "My father was Spetsnaz. I grew up understanding operational security." She stroked Beast's head gently. "This dog is special. The question is whether that makes him valuable or dangerous." "Maybe both," Jack said quietly. "Come back tomorrow evening. I'll see what I can discover about his chip." As Jack prepared to leave, Elena handed him a burner phone. "Use this to contact me. And Mr. Mercer, be careful. In my experience, when American and Russian interests overlap, the truth is rarely simple." Jack spent a restless night at a roadside motel, paying cash and using the fake ID he'd maintained out of habit since leaving service. Old paranoia had served him well in the past. Judging by the surveillance photos on his burner phone, it was serving him well now. Tom had sent the images captured by Jack's security cameras, 2 black SUVs arriving at his cabin shortly after. Dawn, 4 men in tactical gear conducting a methodical search of the property. Not local law enforcement, not standard military either. Their movements were too precise, their formation too practiced. The final image showed a figure emerging from the second vehicle, a tall man with silver hair and a bearing that radiated authority. Even from the grainy security footage, Jack recognized military command presence. The man surveyed the cabin with cold assessment before speaking into a radio. Tom's accompanying text was brief. "Your friends weren't happy to find you. Gone. Asked lots of questions, told them you were on a fishing trip." Jack zoomed in on the silver-haired man, something naggingly familiar about his profile. He'd seen him somewhere before, but the memory refused to surface. The burner phone rang at noon. "It's Elena. Can you come to the clinic's back entrance at 2 p.m.? Come alone and make sure you're not followed." "Is Beast okay?" "Yes, but—" She hesitated. "I found something you need to see." When Jack arrived, Elena ushered him quickly inside. Beast greeted him with newfound enthusiasm, pressing against his leg briefly before resuming his alert posture. Elena's office was converted into an impromptu lab, equipment crowding her desk. "I modified my scanner," she explained, indicating a disassembled device connected to her computer. "Standard scanners only read the identification number, but this chip is transmitting additional data." Transmitting. Jack's alarm must have shown. "Don't worry, I've isolated it in a Faraday cage for now." She gestured to a metal mesh enclosure. "But yes, it's an advanced tracking device, military grade, with encryption I've never seen before." Jack processed this. "So whoever implanted it could track Beast's location?" "Precisely." Eleanor pulled up a diagram on her computer. "The chip contains GPS functionality and transmits data on a frequency typically reserved for government communications. But there's more." She opened another file, what looked like medical imaging. "I ran a full-body scan. Beast has 2 more implants, one near his heart, another at the base of his skull." Jack felt a chill. "What kind of implants?" "The one near his heart monitors vital signs, standard for very valuable working dogs. The cranial implant is more unusual." Elena's expression was troubled. "Based on its positioning, it could be a neural implant." "For what purpose?" "Impossible to say without specialized equipment. But in theory, such implants can deliver targeted stimuli to specific brain regions." Jack looked at Beast, who stared back with those intelligent amber eyes. "Mind control?" "Not so dramatic. More likely reinforcement for training, pleasure signals for correct behavior, perhaps discomfort for incorrect responses." The Russians. Military has experimented with such technology for decades. Jack's military background filled in the blanks. A dog with specialized training, enhanced tracking, potentially remote-controlled responses. An ultimate covert operative that couldn't be interrogated, couldn't break under pressure. "Project Cerberus," he murmured. Eleanor watched him carefully. "You know what this is?" "Pieces of it." Jack knelt beside Beast, examining him with new eyes. "He's not just a military working dog. He's a prototype." "Yes, and an expensive one." Eleanor handed Jack a tablet. "While you were gone, I searched for information, found this buried in veterinary research journals." The screen showed a heavily redacted research paper on canine neural implants, co-authored by American and Russian scientists. The project name was blacked out, but the partial date aligned with Operation Frost Bridge. "There's one more thing," Elena said quietly. "The cranial implant is still active. If someone sent the right signal, they could control him remotely," Jack finished. "Or terminate him." Elena met his eyes. "Fail-safe mechanisms are standard. In classified projects." Jack's phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "They're back. Different vehicles, looking for you, asking questions around town." Eleanor leaned over, reading the message. "You can't go back. They're closing in. They'll find us eventually, not if we disable the tracking first." Eleanor's jaw set determinedly. "I can remove the chip, but I need time and better equipment." "Where?" "I have a friend with a private clinic, more isolated, better security." She began gathering supplies. "We need to move now." As if sensing the urgency, Beast stood at attention, awaiting commands. Jack's instincts screamed that they were being hunted by professionals. Whoever wanted Beast back had resources, authority, and determination. "Кто охотится за тобой?" Jack asked softly. "Who is hunting you?" Beast, of course, couldn't answer. But as they loaded quickly into Elena's SUV, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the dog knew exactly who was coming for them. Elena's friend with a private clinic turned out to be Dr. Marcus Reed, a former military surgeon who now ran a small veterinary practice on a remote property in the mountains. The facility was modest but well-equipped, and most importantly, secure, with a perimeter fence, surveillance cameras, and no neighbors for miles. "Elena said you need discretion," Dr. Reed said after introductions. He was in his 60s, with a weathered face and steady hands. "I don't ask questions." "Appreciate that," Jack replied. Reed studied Beast with professional interest. "Beautiful animal, Belgian Malinois, specialized training?" "Very specialized," Jack confirmed. "The chip removal is straightforward," Reed explained as he prepared his surgical suite. "But if what Elena suspects about the neural implants is correct, removing those would be extremely risky without proper equipment and expertise." "We start with the tracker," Elena said firmly. "That buys us time." While Beast was sedated for the procedure, Jack used Reed's secure internet connection to dig deeper into Project Cerberus. His military credentials still opened some doors in classified databases, though most high-level information remained inaccessible. What he did find confirmed his growing suspicions. Project Cerberus had been a joint US-Russian initiative developing enhanced canine assets for covert operations. The program was officially terminated 3 years ago, following ethical concerns and protocol violations. Exactly when Operation Frost Bridge had gone sideways, Reed emerged from surgery 2 hours later, holding a small metal container. "Got it! Nasty little piece of technology." He handed the container to Jack. Inside was a microchip barely larger than a grain of rice wrapped in copper wire. "Did you disable it?" Jack asked. "Better. I've placed it in a continual loop, transmitting its last known location, my clinic parking lot. Should buy you some time before they realize the signal isn't moving." Elena checked Beast's vitals as he recovered from sedation. "He's strong. He'll be fully alert in a few hours." Jack showed them what he'd uncovered about Project Cerberus. The program was jointly run by U.S. Naval Intelligence and Russian GRU, officially disbanded, but someone's still very interested in their investment, Elena finished. "The in question is who?" Reed said. "Russians wanting their technology back, Americans covering their tracks, or someone else entirely?" Jack thought of the silver-haired man from the security footage. That nagging familiarity. The cabin's perimeter. Alarm pinged. Reed checked the monitor. "Vehicle approaching. Black SUV, government plates." Jack felt his combat instincts kick in. "How did they find us so quickly?" "They must have tracked Elena's vehicle," Reed said, already moving. "We need to go dark." He hit a switch, and the building's power shut down. Backup generators humming to life, powering only essential medical equipment. Elena quickly gathered Beast's medical records while Reed retrieved a go-bag from a cabinet. "Tunnel connects to the boathouse," Reed explained, moving a storage cabinet to reveal a hidden door. "Take my truck. Keys are inside. Registrations. Clean." "You're not coming?" Elena asked. "Someone needs to greet our visitors, buy you time." Reed handed Jack a thumb drive. "Everything I found about Beast's implants is on this. There's a specialist in Helena who might help, name and address included." Jack recognized the selfless calculation of a fellow veteran. "They'll know you helped us." Reed smiled grimly. "Former Army intelligence. I can handle myself. Now go." As they prepared to leave, Jack grasped the older man's shoulder. "Thank you. Just make sure that dog doesn't fall back into the wrong hands," Reed replied. "Whatever they designed him for, it wasn't for anything good." Beast, now alert but groggy, followed Jack's quiet Russian commands through the tunnel. The passage was narrow, forcing them to move single file for nearly 100 yards before emerging in a small boathouse on the lake's edge. Through the boathouse window, Jack could see Reed greeting 2 men in suits at the clinic's front entrance, his body language casual and unconcerned. "We need to move," Jack told Elena, helping Beast into the truck's back seat. "If they're government, they'll have called for backup already." As they pulled away, keeping their lights off until they reached the main road, Jack glanced at the thumb drive Reed had given him. Another piece of the puzzle, another step toward understanding what Beast had been designed to do and why someone was so determined to get him back. They drove through the night, switching vehicles at a truck stop, where Eleanor's friend owed her a favor. By dawn, they were in a nondescript sedan heading toward an old hunting cabin Jack maintained under an alias, a paranoid precaution from his final years of service that now seemed prescient. The cabin was little more than a glorified shack deep in the national forest, accessible only by a logging road, followed by a mile-long hike. Jack had stocked it years ago with essentials: non-perishable food, water purification, basic medical supplies, and a small arsenal, just in case. "You were expecting trouble even before Beast," Eleanor observed, as Jack unlocked the reinforced door. "Marines taught me to prepare. Intelligence work taught me why." Jack secured the perimeter while Beast conducted his own inspection of the cabin, moving with military precision despite his recent surgery. The cabin had no electricity, no running water, and most importantly, no digital footprint. Jack hadn't registered it, paid taxes on it, or connected it to his name in any way. The perfect ghost location. By midday, they had established a base of operations. Jack spread maps across the rough-hewn table, marking potential exit routes and defensive positions. Old habits. The closest town was 30 miles away, the nearest neighbor 5 miles downslope. "We're safe for now," Jack said, "but we need information." Elena connected Reed's thumb drive to her laptop. "Let's see what Marcus found." The files contained detailed scans of Beast's implants, technical specifications, and fragmentary research. Papers. Most significantly, it included a partially corrupted personnel file with a name: Colonel Viktor Baranov, Russian military intelligence, project co-director for Cerberus. Jack stared at the accompanying photo. The silver-haired man from his security footage. "I know him," Jack said quietly. "He was liaison on Frost Bridge." Memories surfaced. A firm handshake, steel-grey eyes, tactical briefings delivered with precise English. When the operation went bad, he disappeared. Investigation concluded he wasn't involved in the leak. "But you're not so sure," Elena guessed. Jack's jaw tightened. 3 good men died. Someone talked. Beast approached, resting his head briefly on Jack's knee. An unprecedented gesture of comfort. Jack absently stroked the dog's head, the simple connection grounding him. "There's more," Elena said, scrolling through the files. "The neural implant specifications. It's not just for training reinforcement, it contains memory partitions." Memory partitions, like segregated storage. Dogs have exceptional episodic memory for things they witness. This implant theoretically allows handlers to access specific memories. Jack looked at Beast with growing unease. "He's a recording device, a sophisticated one. The implant stores sensory data, what Beast sees and hears, with markers accessible via specialized equipment." Elena's expression was troubled. If Beast was present during Frostbridge, he might have recorded what actually happened, Jack finished. "Who betrayed the mission?" A cold realization settled over Jack. "That's why Baranov wants him back. Beast is evidence." Elena closed the laptop. "We need to find someone who can access those memories." Reed mentioned a specialist in Helena. Dr. Sarah Klein, Elena confirmed. Former DARPA researcher, now works privately on neural interfaces. If anyone can safely retrieve data from Beast's implant, it's her. As Elena prepared dinner from their limited supplies, Jack sat with Beast by the cabin's single window, watching. The fading light. The dog's presence was different now, more partner than subordinate, more companion than tool. "What did you see, boy?" Jack murmured. "What secrets are you carrying?" Beast's amber eyes seemed to hold answers just beyond reach. That night, as a storm rolled over the mountains, Jack's PTSD flared, the thunder triggering memories of explosions, of bleeding comrades, of betrayal. He woke gasping, disoriented, his hand reaching for a weapon. Beast was there instantly, pressing against him in the darkness, a solid anchor to reality. Not trained comfort, genuine connection. Elena found them like that in the morning, man and dog side by side, both finally resting peacefully. She didn't comment, but her expression softened as she prepared coffee on the small propane stove. "We should reach Helena by nightfall," she said as Jack stirred. "I've contacted Dr. Klein securely. She's cautious but willing to meet." Jack nodded, watching Beast patrol the cabin's perimeter. Alert, protective, somehow more alive than he'd been when Jack first adopted him. "He's not just a weapon," Jack said quietly. "Whatever they designed him to be, he's more than that now." Elena smiled slightly. "Perhaps you both are." Helena appeared on the horizon as dusk settled, city lights blinking to life in the valley below. They approached cautiously, using back roads and making random turns to detect any surveillance. Jack's instincts remained sharp. Twice he identified potential tails and took evasive action. Dr. Sarah Klein's facility wasn't what Jack expected. Rather than a university lab or government building, they arrived at a converted warehouse in an industrial district, its exterior deliberately nondescript. A single security camera tracked their approach. "Veterinary research?" Jack read from. "The unremarkable sign. Plausible deniability," Elena explained. "Sarah consults for agencies that don't officially exist." The security system was military-grade. Retinal scan, reinforced doors, signal jammers. Inside, however, the space transformed into a state-of-the-art laboratory that would make DARPA envious. Dr. Klein herself defied stereotypes. In her early 60s, with cropped silver hair and coveralls instead of a lab coat, she looked more like a mechanic than a neuroscientist. "So this is the famous Beast," she said, kneeling to examine the dog without touching him. "May I?" Jack gave. Beast the command to allow handling. Klein's examination was gentle but thorough, focusing on the area around the cranial implant. "Extraordinary work," she murmured. "Russian engineering with American specifications. The melding of technologies is elegant." "Can you access the stored data?" Jack asked. Klein straightened. "Potentially, but first we talk parameters." Her gaze was steel. "I'm taking an enormous risk even meeting you. Cerberus was a black program that officially never existed. Influential people want it to stay buried. People like Colonel Baranov," Jack challenged, "among others." Klein activated a holographic display showing Project Cerberus documentation, far more complete than what they'd seen. This program violated every ethical standard in experimental research. 27 dogs entered the program. Only 3 survived the implantation process. Beast, designation K7, was the only unqualified success. The display showed Beast's training records, medical data, and mission logs. Most disturbing were images of the experimental procedures, clinical photographs documenting the surgical implantation of neural interfaces. "This wasn't just about creating enhanced military working dogs," Klein continued. "It was about developing prototype technology eventually intended for human applications." Jack felt his stomach tighten. Human soldiers with implants? Enhanced operators who could record intelligence without equipment, whose memories could be downloaded and analyzed. Klein's expression was grim. Perfect witnesses, perfect spies. The K9 program was Phase 1. Elena studied the data with horror. Did they actually proceed with human trials? Not officially. The program was shut down after an incident during a field test. Klein glanced at Jack. Operation Frost Bridge. Jack's hands clenched. Beast was there. He was deployed with the Russian contingent. His handler was a GRU operative codenamed Alexei. Klein brought up a grainy surveillance photo of a compact, hard-faced man with Beast at his side. After the operation failed, Alexei apparently went rogue, smuggled Beast out of Russia, arranged his transfer to American custody through back channels. Why? That's the multi-million-dollar question. Klein tapped the display. Either he was stealing valuable technology or Or he was saving evidence, Jack finished. The official investigation concluded Frost Bridge failed due to incomplete intelligence. Your team walked into an ambush that shouldn't have been possible. Someone leaked our position, Jack said, the old anger resurfacing. We lost good men, and Beast may have recorded who was responsible. Klein turned to Elena. The schematics you sent show his implant is still functional. I can attempt to access the memory partitions, but there are risks. What kind of risks? Elena asked. The system has safeguards. Tampering could trigger a failsafe. Anything from data self-destruction to the animal's termination. The blunt assessment hung in the silence. And if we do nothing, Jack asked, whoever's hunting Beast will eventually find him. The implant is too valuable. Klein's gaze was direct. And the evidence it contains too dangerous. Jack looked at Beast, who had positioned himself protectively between Jack and the lab equipment, alert but calm. In the sterile white laboratory, his powerful frame and watchful eyes seemed even more remarkable, a living weapon, yet undeniably sentient. Is Alexei still alive? Jack asked. Last intelligence placed him in Canada, living under a new identity. Klein pulled up another file. There's an address. No guarantees it's current. I need to find him before we risk the extraction, Jack decided. He knew what Beast recorded. He risked everything to preserve that evidence. Klein nodded. I agree. And Jack, if Baranov is involved in the hunt for Beast, be careful. He didn't become a colonel by being squeamish about eliminating problems. The Canadian border crossing went smoothly with the false identifications Klein had provided, another indication of her mysterious connections. Beast traveled as a service animal, his specialized training making the role convincing. Jack drove, while Elena navigated, following GPS coordinates to a remote cabin near Thunder Bay, Ontario. The location was strategic, isolated enough for privacy, but close enough to the border for a quick escape if needed. Are we sure this Alexei will help us? Elena asked as they turned onto a rutted dirt road. If he's been hiding all this time, he wanted Beast's evidence preserved, Jack reasoned. Why else go through the trouble of smuggling him out? The tea cabin appeared through the trees, a modest structure with a metal roof and weathered siding. No vehicles visible, no signs of occupation, except thin smoke rising from the chimney. Jack parked at a distance. Wait here with Beast. If anything happens, take the car and go. Eleanor touched his arm. Be careful. Jack approached cautiously, tracking lines of sight, noting defensive positions, habits from a life spent in combat zones. He was 20 yards from the cabin when the front door opened. The man who emerged held a hunting rifle casually at his side, not aimed, but ready. He was shorter than Jack expected, with a weathered face and watchful eyes. His stance and bearing instantly confirmed his military background. That's far enough, the man called in accented English. Jack stopped. I'm looking for Alexei. There is no Alexei here. I have K7 with me, Jack said, using Beast's project designation. The man's expression didn't change, but his grip on the rifle tightened slightly. Prove it. Jack turned and whistled, the signal he'd arranged with Elena. Moments later, she emerged from the trees with Beast at her side. The effect on the man was immediate. His composure cracked, eyes widening as Beast approached. He lowered the rifle, muttering something in Russian that sounded like a prayer. Nevozможно, he whispered. Impossible. Beast's reaction was equally telling. The dog's ears pricked forward, his posture changing from alert to recognition. A low whine escaped him, the first emotional sound Jack had heard from the stoic animal. You're Alexei, Jack stated. The man didn't deny it this time. And you are? Jack Mercer, former Marine Intelligence. I was part of Operation Frost Bridge. Something flickered in Alexei's eyes. Caution, recognition, calculation. Finally, he nodded toward the cabin. Come inside, all of you. The cabin's Interior was Spartan but comfortable. Maps covered one wall, communication equipment another. A go-bag sat ready by the door. The dwelling of a man prepared to disappear at a moment's notice. Beast moved immediately to Alexei's side, pressing against his leg like a long-lost friend. The Russian's hand dropped to the dog's head, scratching behind his ears with familiar affection. "I never thought I would see him again," Alexei said quietly. "How did you find him?" Jack explained the adoption, the discovery of Beast's Russian training, and the pursuit that followed. As he spoke, Elena studied Alexei carefully, her expression increasingly troubled. When Jack finished, Alexei looked to Elena. "And you are the veterinarian who discovered the implants?" "Yes." Elena's voice was strangely tight. "Dr. Elena Petrov." Alexei smiled faintly. "No, you are not." The cabin fell silent. Jack looked between them, sensing a sudden shift in dynamics. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. Alexei kept his eyes on Elena. "Her name is not Elena Petrov. She is Captain Yelena Petrova, GRU Military Intelligence." Jack turned to Elena, who met his gaze steadily, neither confirming nor denying. "She was assigned to Project Cerberus as veterinary supervisor," Alexei continued. "She designed the implants that K7 carries." The revelation hit Jack like physical blow. He instinctively moved away from Elena, hand drifting toward his concealed weapon. "Is this true?" he asked. Elena, or Yelena, straightened her shoulders. "My name is Yelena Petrova. I was involved with Project Cerberus, yes, but I left Russian intelligence 3 years ago, after Frost Bridge." She looked at Alexei. "Around the same time you disappeared with Beast." "Why didn't you tell me?" Jack demanded. "Would you have trusted me if I had?" She met his gaze unflinchingly. "I came to America to escape what I'd been part of, not to continue it. When you brought Beast to my clinic, I thought it was coincidence. Then I realized it was an opportunity to finally make things right." Alexei watched this exchange with wary eyes. "The question, Captain, is who are you working for now?" Tension filled the cabin as Jack processed Yelena's deception. Beast sensed the shift, moving to position himself between them, uncertain where his loyalty should lie. "I work for no one," Yelena finally answered Alexei. "Not anymore." "A convenient claim," Alexei countered. "I could say the same about you," she shot back. "GRU operative gone rogue, stealing a $12 million prototype." Jack held up his hand. "Enough, both of you." He turned to Yelena. "Start talking." "The truth this time," she sighed, shoulders dropping slightly. "I was recruited to Project Cerberus for my expertise in veterinary neurology. It was presented as research to help wounded soldiers, neural interfaces to restore lost function." Her expression hardened. The reality was very different. "She designed the memory partitioning system," Alexei added. "The technology that makes K7 unique." "I didn't know how they would use it," Yelena insisted. "When I realized they were creating walking recording devices, first dogs, then eventually humans, I tried to shut it down ethically, raise concerns through proper channels. And," Jack prompted, "and 2 colleagues who shared my concerns died in accidents within a month." Her eyes met Jack's. "So I played along while looking for a way out." Then came Frost Bridge. Alexei moved to a cabinet, retrieved a bottle of vodka and 3 glasses. "Perhaps it is time we all shared what we know of that operation." He poured the drinks, then connected a small device to his laptop. A video began playing. Grainy night vision footage showing a tactical team moving through mountainous terrain. Jack recognized himself in the lead, younger and uninjured. "This is from Beast's implant," Alexei explained. "I downloaded portions before we escaped." Jack watched, transfixed, as the mission unfolded from Beast's perspective, moving with Alexei, alongside the Russian contingent, paralleling the American team. The operation had been simple. Joint forces converging on a terrorist camp in the border region between Kazakhstan and Russia. "We were set up," Jack said grimly. "Someone gave our position away." The footage continued. showing the moment everything went wrong. The first explosion, the sudden gunfire from multiple directions. Beast's recording captured what human testimony couldn't. Colonel Baranov speaking quietly into a separate communication device moments before the ambush began. He triggered it, Jack whispered. Baranov sold us out. Not just Baranov, Alexei said, pausing the video and zooming on a figure partially visible at the edge of the frame. An American officer conferring with Baranov shortly before the attack. Jack felt the blood drain from his face. Colonel Westfield. My commanding officer. A coordinated betrayal, Alexei confirmed. Your men and 3 of mine died to cover a different operation entirely. What operation? Jack demanded. Assassination, Yelena answered quietly. A Russian defector in the camp, a scientist who could expose other projects like Cerberus. Both governments wanted him silenced. The joint mission was cover for the real objective. Jack's mind raced. That's why the investigation was shut down, why Baranov disappeared afterwards, and why they want Beast back so badly, Alexei added. This footage is evidence of a war crime, of your government and mine sacrificing their own soldiers. Why didn't you release this? Go public? Jack asked. Alexei laughed bitterly. And trust which authority exactly? The same ones who authorized the operation? He gestured to Beast. I couldn't access all the memory partitions. I only have fragments. Without the complete evidence, we would simply disappear before the truth emerged. Yelena leaned forward. That's why I've been helping you, Jack. The neural interface system I designed. I'm one of the few people alive who can safely extract all of Beast's memories without triggering the failsafe. And why should I trust you now? Jack challenged. Because I was there too. She pulled out an ID card from her pocket. Her real identification, showing her GRU credentials. I saw what they did. I helped Alexei smuggle Beast out afterward. I've been hiding ever since, just like him. Alexei studied her. You took a great risk coming here. As did you, contacting Dr. Klein, she countered. Baranov has been hunting both of us for 3 years. Jack looked between them, then to Beast, who had settled watchfully between all 3 humans, alert, protective, carrying the evidence that could expose a deadly conspiracy. So what now? He asked. Now, Alexei said grimly, we prepare, because Baranov is coming, and this time he will not leave witnesses. By dawn, the cabin had been transformed into a tactical operations center. Maps covered the dining table, satellite, imagery of the surrounding area, escape routes highlighted, defensive positions marked. Jack and Alexei moved with the coordinated efficiency of experienced operators, communicating in the shorthand of those who had lived in combat zones. You truly believe Baranov will come himself? Yelena asked, studying the topographical features surrounding the cabin. He has to, Alexei replied. We have the only evidence connecting him directly to Frost Bridge. He can't risk sending subordinates who might learn the truth, Jack nodded. Men like Baranov handle their most dangerous problems personally. They had spent the night sharing intelligence, filling in gaps in each other's knowledge. Jack's military contacts had confirmed Baranov's current position, officially attached to the Russian embassy in Washington, unofficially running operations with concerning autonomy. My source confirms increased activity at known GRU safe houses in Toronto, Jack said, hanging up his secure phone. They're mobilizing. How many? Alexei asked. At least 6 operators, professional extraction team, plus Baranov, Alexei added. He was Spetsnaz before intelligence. Don't underestimate him. Jack turned to Yelena. Are you certain you can extract the complete memory files? She examined the specialized equipment she'd assembled, a modified neural interface she'd been developing since leaving Russia. Yes, but I need time. 6 hours minimum, and Beast must remain absolutely still during the procedure. Which means we can't move him once we start, Jack noted. We'd be sitting ducks. So we don't stay here, Alexei concluded. This location is compromised. Jack traced a route on the map. There's a hunting lodge 20 miles north, more defensible, Multiple escape routes, better sight lines. But how do we get there without being tracked? Yelena asked. They'll have aerial surveillance. Alexei smiled thinly. The old ways still work best. He pulled back a rug, revealing a hidden trapdoor. Soviet-era tunnel system. Cold War paranoia has its uses. Below the cabin stretched a narrow concrete passage, dimly lit by emergency lighting. Connects to an old monitoring station 2 miles north, Alexei explained. From there, we can move, undetected through the forest. As they prepared supplies for the journey, Jack found himself working alongside Yelena with cautious coordination. Trust had been fractured, but not broken. Their shared objective creating a tenuous alliance. "You should have told me who you were," he said quietly as they packed medical equipment. "Would you have believed anything else I said afterward?" she countered. "Or would you have seen only the enemy?" Jack considered this. Fair point. "For what it's worth," she added, "everything I told you about wanting to help Beast was true. The relationship you've built with him. It's what I hoped for when I designed the program. Connection, not just control." Jack glanced at Beast, who was allowing Alexei to fit him with a specialized tactical vest, custom-made protection with pockets for supplies. The dog's demeanor had transformed since reuniting with his former handler, showing a level of confidence and capability Jack hadn't fully witnessed before. "He remembers the work," Alexei commented, seeing Jack's observation. In many ways, K7 Beast was the perfect operative, loyal, fearless, without human hesitation. "But still a living being," Yelena insisted, "not just a weapon." Jack's phone buzzed with an alert from his security system. He checked the screen, face hardening. "Drone just passed over my Montana cabin. They're still looking for us there." "Which buys us time," Alexei noted. "How many of your former team from Frostbridge are still alive?" "Just 2 others, both retired, off-grid." "Contact them," Alexei advised. "If we succeed in extracting the evidence, we'll need trustworthy allies to help disseminate it." Jack nodded. "Already done." As darkness fell, they made final preparations. Weapons were checked, communications tested, medical supplies secured. Beast remained alert, sensing the pre-mission tension, responding to both Jack and Alexei's commands. With flawless precision, Yelena approached Jack as he studied the route one last time. "The extraction procedure will be painful for Beast," she said quietly. "Accessing the implant directly stimulates neural pathways." "Is there an alternative?" She shook her head. "The fail-safe mechanisms would trigger with any other approach." Jack knelt beside Beast, meeting those intelligent amber eyes. "Will he understand what we're doing? Why it's necessary?" Yelena's expression softened. "I believe he already does. Dogs sense purpose, even if they don't comprehend details." "He's survived worse," Alexei added, joining them. "And he'll have both of us with him." Both of us. The phrase hung in the air, acknowledgement of the unusual shared custody that had developed. Jack and Alexei, former adversaries, now united by their connection to Beast and their pursuit of truth. "Time to move," Alexei said, checking his watch. "Darkness gives us advantage." The tunnel was narrow and damp, forcing them to move single file. Jack led, night vision goggles revealing the path ahead. Alexei followed with Beast, then Yelena, bringing up the rear. The passage smelled of wet concrete and old secrets, a relic of Cold War paranoia that now served as their lifeline. Soviet intelligence built dozens of these across the border regions, Alexei explained softly. Monitoring stations disguised as hunting cabins, escape routes for assets. "Seems your people never quite trusted their American allies," Jack commented. "With good reason, it seems," Alexei replied dryly. Frost Bridge proved that. The tunnel eventually opened into a small underground bunker stocked with outdated equipment and emergency supplies. From there, a shorter passage led to the surface, emerging through a concealed hatch beneath a fallen tree. The forest was silent around them, moonlight filtering through pine branches. They moved with practiced stealth, Beast padding noiselessly. Between them, responding to hand signals, alert to every sound, Jack felt the familiar clarity of combat operations returning, senses heightened, mind focused solely on the mission. It was a state he hadn't experienced since leaving service, and despite the danger, he found himself oddly comforted by its return. The hunting lodge appeared after 3 hours of careful movement through dense forest, a sturdy 2-story structure. On elevated ground with clear sightlines in all directions, Alexei approached first, conducting a thorough sweep before signaling the all-clear. Inside, they worked with practiced efficiency, securing entrances, establishing fields of fire, setting up communications. The main room was converted into a medical space for Beast's procedure, equipment assembled on a sturdy table. As dawn approached, Jack received intelligence from his military contacts, satellite imagery showing vehicles moving on logging roads. 15 miles south, their window was closing. "We have company," Jack announced. "ETA 4 hours if they maintain current speed and heading." Alexei nodded. "Enough time to complete the extraction if we start now." Yelena prepared Beast, gently sedating him to keep him still while maintaining consciousness, necessary for accessing the memory functions. She attached monitoring equipment to track his vital signs as Jack and Alexei positioned themselves at tactical vantage points. "The vest is lined with lightweight armor," Alexei explained as they fitted the custom protective gear around Beast. "Not enough to stop a direct shot, but it will help with fragmentation and glancing hits." The vest incorporated communications equipment, a small camera and microphone that would allow them to monitor Beast's perspective if they became separated. Jack recognized the technology as an evolution of what he'd used in his final deployments. "Standard Spetsnaz K9 equipment," Alexei noted, seeing Jack's recognition. Beast was wearing something similar during Frostbridge. As Yelena made final preparations, Jack found himself staring at the maps they'd arranged, memory fragments from Frostbridge surfacing. The mountains, the valley approach, the moment everything went wrong, searing pain in his side, the frantic calls over comms, watching good men fall around him. "You're thinking about that night," Alexei observed, joining him. Jack nodded. 3 years trying to piece it together. Who betrayed us? Why the investigation was shut down? "And now the dog you adopted by chance holds all the answers," Alexei said with grim amusement. "Fate has a peculiar sense of humor." "Or justice," Jack replied. Alexei's expression hardened. "Justice requires more than knowledge. It requires action." He pulled up satellite imagery on his tablet. "Baranov will come prepared for resistance, but not for a coordinated defense by 2 experienced operators." 3, Yelena corrected, joining. "Them. I wasn't just a veterinarian in the program. GRU officers receive full tactical training." Jack reassessed her with newfound respect. "Good. We'll need every advantage." Beast was now positioned on the examination table, sedated but alert, electrodes carefully placed around the cranial implant site. Yelena's equipment hummed as it established connection with the sophisticated hardware buried beneath Beast's fur. "Once I begin, I cannot stop without risking data corruption or triggering the failsafe," she warned. "No matter what happens outside, this process must continue, uninterrupted." Jack checked his weapon one final time. "Then we make sure you get those 6 hours, whatever it takes." Alexei moved to Beast, speaking softly in Russian, words Jack recognized as reassurance, perhaps even affection. The dog's eyes remained fixed on his former handler with unwavering trust. "He's ready," Alexei said finally, stepping back. Yelena took a deep breath, hands steady as she initiated the procedure, beginning memory extraction. On her monitor, data began streaming, neural pathways lighting up, memory partitions unlocking one by one. Beast's ears twitched, but he remained still, somehow understanding the importance of his cooperation. "First memory block accessing," Yelena reported. "Time to completion, 5 hours, 47 minutes. Outside, thunder rolled across the distant. Hills, a storm approaching from the north, nature's percussion to accompany the coming confrontation. The storm arrived with the intruders, wind whipping through the trees as the first security sensors triggered. Jack monitored the perimeter cameras from his position upstairs, counting heat signatures moving through the forest, 8 figures approaching with tactical precision. 2 teams, classic pincer movement, he reported through his comm. First, group approaching from the south, second circling to the east entrance. Baranov? Alexei asked from his position covering the western approach. Jack studied the thermal images. 1 figure directing from the rear. Matches his profile. In the main room below, Yelena worked steadily, focused entirely on Beast and the neural extraction process. The first memory sequences had already downloaded. Fragmented images from Beast's training, missions before Frost Bridge, the bond formed with his handler, Alexei. "How much longer?" Jack asked. 4 hours minimum, she replied without looking. "Up. We're just reaching the Frost Bridge operation now." Jack checked his watch. 4 hours was an eternity in tactical situations. "They'll be in position in 10 minutes. Alexei, fall back to secondary positions on my mark." Their defense strategy was simple but effective. Allow the initial teams to approach, then force them into pre-sighted fields of fire. The lodge's sturdy construction provided excellent cover, and they'd prepared multiple fallback positions. Outside, the storm intensified. Rain drumming against the roof as lightning illuminated the surrounding forest in strobing flashes. Nature, providing both concealment and distraction. The first attack came precisely as Jack predicted. Flashbang grenades through the ground floor windows, followed by coordinated entry through east and south doors. But the intruders found empty rooms, triggered traps of Jack and Alexei's design. Tripwires releasing tear gas canisters, pressure plates activating blinding lights. From their elevated positions, Jack and Alexei picked their targets with methodical precision. Non-lethal shots, shoulders, legs, disabling rather than killing. These weren't their true enemies, just professional operators following orders. East team retreating, Alexei reported as 2 figures dragged a wounded third back. Into the forest, South team regrouping, Jack confirmed. They'll adjust tactics now. The radio silence broke with a voice Jack hadn't heard in 3 years. Cold, precise, with the faintest Russian accent. "Jack Mercer, I know you're listening." Colonel Baranov's voice carried over the frequency they'd detected earlier. "You've led us on quite a chase." Jack exchanged glances with Alexei, who nodded. "Engage him, buy time." "Colonel Baranov, still cleaning up your messes personally." A short laugh. "Professional courtesy, Major Mercer, one operator to another." "Is that what we're calling betrayal these days? Professional courtesy?" A pause. "Frost Bridge was unfortunate but necessary. You weren't meant to be casualties." "Tell that to the men who died," Jack replied, anger sharpening his focus. "Ancient history," Baranov dismissed. "What matters is the asset you've stolen. K7 represents significant investment and sensitive technology." "Beast," Jack corrected. "His name is Beast now." "A machine doesn't need a name, Major, and that's what K7 is, biological hardware carrying classified data." Baranov's tone hardened. "You have 3 minutes to surrender the animal. After that, we stop being surgical." Jack muted the comm. "He's stalling, second team repositioning," Alexei nodded. "Thermal suppression blankets. They're masking their approach." Below, Yelena reported steady progress. Beast remaining still despite obvious discomfort as the neural interface accessed. Deeper memory partitions. The monitor displayed fragmented images now recognizable as Operation Frost Bridge. Night vision scenes of mountains, tactical teams moving through darkness. "We need to hold them back at least 3 more hours, she said, tension evident in her voice. Jack calculated options, resources, probabilities. "Alexei, initiate contingency 2. The Russian nodded grimly, moving to activate the remote charges they'd placed in the surrounding forest. Non-lethal concussive devices designed to disorient and separate the approaching teams. The first detonations coincided with lightning strikes, thunder masking the explosions as disoriented shouts echoed through the forest. The approaching heat signatures scattered, tactical formation breaking. Jack used the confusion to relocate, moving to a new firing position as the attackers regrouped. He caught a glimpse of a figure directing operations from the tree line, tall, silver-haired, unmistakably Baranov. "I have visual confirmation," Jack reported. "Baranov is personally commanding the operation." "As expected," Alexei replied. "He cannot risk failure." A new voice broke over the comm, American, authoritative. "This is Colonel Westfield, United States Army Intelligence. Jack Mercer, you are interfering with a classified joint operation. Stand down immediately." Jack felt ice in his veins. Westfield, his former commander. The American half of the conspiracy that had cost his men their lives. Both architects in the same place, Alexei observed. "This is no longer about recovering Beast." "No," Jack agreed grimly. "This is a cleanup operation. They're here to eliminate everyone who knows the truth." The second assault came with military precision, coordinated fire from multiple positions, forcing Jack and Alexei to maintain cover as two teams maneuvered closer to the lodge. No longer concerned with stealth, the attackers deployed smoke grenades to mask their approach. "They're targeting the power generator," Alexei warned as a figure broke from cover, moving toward the external unit that powered Yelena's equipment. Jack tracked the operator through his scope, exhaled, and squeezed the trigger. The figure dropped, clutching their shoulder, disabled but alive. "How's our timeline?" Jack called down to Yelena. 2 hours, 40 minutes remaining," she replied, voice steady despite the firefight surrounding them. "We're accessing the critical memory segments now." On her monitor, Beast's memories of Frostbridge unfolded in vivid detail. The joint operation briefing, Baranov and Westfield conferring privately, the moment Beast's sensitive microphones captured their whispered contingency plan. "Jack!" Alexei's urgent call pulled his attention back to the tactical situation. "Thermal shows them deploying something at the north corner." Jack switched views on his tactical pad, identifying the shapes. "Breaching charges. They're coming. Through the foundation." "Go," Alexei said. "I'll cover upstairs." Jack moved swiftly to the lower level, positioning himself with sightlines to the north wall. The storm had intensified. Rain pounding against the windows, wind howling through the trees, nature's fury matching the human conflict. The breach came with a controlled explosion, dust billowing as a section of wall collapsed inward. Jack waited, counting heartbeats as the first figure entered through the opening. When the second followed, he engaged. 2 quick shots, dropping both operators with leg wounds. But the breach had served its purpose, creating a distraction as the main assault. Team approached the east entrance. Jack heard Alexei's rifle fire in steady, measured shots, each finding its mark, slowing the advance but not stopping it. In the central room, Beast remained motionless on the examination table despite the chaos, somehow understanding the critical importance of the procedure. Yelena worked with unwavering focus, her hands steady as she navigated the complex neural pathways of Beast's implant. "They're attempting to access the south entrance," Alexei reported, "running low on countermeasures." Jack calculated their remaining resources against the determined attackers. "Fall back to position 3. We consolidate around Beast and Yelena." The decision meant surrendering the tactical advantage of elevated positions, but time was now their most precious resource. Every minute they could delay the attackers brought them closer to extracting the evidence that would expose Baranov and Westfield's crimes. As Jack moved to the central room, a new sound cut through the storm, the rhythmic thump of helicopter. "Rotors approaching. Reinforcements," he warned. "They're bringing in air support." Alexei appeared at the doorway, face grim. Not just any support. That's a Spetsnaz extraction team. I recognize the approach pattern. The realization hit Jack like physical blow. They're not here to recover Beast. They're here to destroy him. And all evidence, Alexei nodded. Standard protocol for compromised assets, total elimination. Below them, the breach in the foundation had become an entry point for tear gas canisters, the acrid smoke beginning to fill the lower level. Jack and Alexei donned their gas masks, but Yelena couldn't risk interrupting the procedure to protect herself. Time remaining? Jack asked, moving to cover the main entrance. 2 hours, Yelena replied, eyes watering from the gas, but hands still. Steady. Maybe less if I can bypass the secondary encryption. Outside, the helicopter circled closer, searchlight cutting through the storm to illuminate the lodge. Through the windows, Jack caught glimpses of operators rappelling from the aircraft, elite forces joining the ground teams. The radio crackled again, Baranov's voice cutting through static. Your situation is untenable, Major. You're outnumbered, surrounded, with no extraction plan. All for what? A dog? Evidence, Jack replied simply, of what really happened at Frost Bridge. A pause. Then you leave us no choice. The transmission ended as the helicopter swung around for another pass. This time, the door gunner visible, weapon trained on the lodge. Incoming, Alexei shouted, diving away from the windows. The first burst of fire shattered glass and splintered wood, rounds tearing through the upper level of the lodge. Jack pulled Yelena down, shielding her and Beast as debris rained around them. When the helicopter banked for another approach, Jack met Alexei's eyes across the room. Both men understood their deteriorating tactical position, without a countermeasure. For the air support, they had minutes, not hours. We need a new plan, Jack said, mind racing through diminishing options. We need a miracle, Alexei corrected grimly. The miracle came in an unexpected form. As the helicopter banked for another strafing run, a new sound cut through the storm, another aircraft approaching from the west, flying low and fast. Multiple heat signatures incoming, Alexei reported, checking the thermal scanner. Second helicopter, larger than the first. Jack's secure phone vibrated with a text. Cavalry has arrived. Hold position. Klein. Dr. Klein sent help. Jack realized relief flooding through him. The new helicopter, a repurposed military transport, swooped in aggressively, positioning itself between Baranov's smaller craft and the lodge. Through the window, Jack glimpsed the pilot executing combat maneuvers that forced the attack helicopter to veer away. American private military contractors, Alexei observed, recognizing the unmarked helicopter's profile. Your Dr. Klein has impressive connections. The radio crackled with a new voice, American, authoritative, unfamiliar to Jack. Baranov, Westfield, this is oversight. Stand down immediately. You are interfering with a sanctioned intelligence recovery operation. Jack and Alexei exchanged glances of cautious hope. Overhead, the two helicopters circled each other in a tense aerial standoff. We have breathing room, Jack said, but the ground teams are still advancing. As if responding to his assessment, the lodge's perimeter erupted with new gunfire, not directed at them, but at Baranov's forces. Through the windows, Jack spotted new operators moving through the trees, engaging the attackers with precise, coordinated fire. Klein's people are creating a defensive perimeter, Alexei noted. Professional work. In the central room, Yelena worked through watering eyes, the tear gas making each breath painful, but her focus unwavering. On her monitor, Beast's memories continued streaming, now showing clear images of Baranov and Westfield conspiring before the Frost Bridge operation, their conversation captured by Beast's sensitive audio implant. We're getting it all, she reported, voice hoarse from the gas. Every detail of their betrayal. Outside, the tactical situation had transformed. Baranov's ground forces were now caught between the lodge and Klein's operators, forced to fall back into defensive positions. The attack helicopter maintained its distance, outclassed by the larger transport craft, with its door gunners keeping vigilant watch. "This won't stop them for long," Jack cautioned. "Baranov and Westfield have too much at stake." As if confirming his assessment, a new explosion rocked the eastern side of the lodge, a shaped charge breaching the main entrance. Through the smoke, tactical teams stormed in, more desperate now, willing to take casualties to reach their objective. Jack and Alexei engaged immediately, forced into close-quarters combat as the first operators pushed through. The fighting was brutal, hand-to-hand in some instances, as the space became too confined for effective gunfire. In the chaos, Jack found himself face-to-face with a familiar figure, Colonel Westfield himself, weapon raised. The man who had been his commanding officer, who had sent him and his team to die as cover for an assassination. "You should have stayed retired, Jack," Westfield said coldly. "You should have made sure I was dead at Frost Bridge," Jack replied. Westfield's finger tightened on the trigger, just as Beast, who had somehow broken free from his restraints despite the sedation, launched himself at the colonel with explosive force. The gun discharged harmlessly into the ceiling as man and dog crashed to the floor. "Beast, stoyat," Jack commanded. "Hold, don't kill." The dog obeyed instantly. Powerful jaws clamped around Westfield's arm, but not crushing, holding him immobile. The colonel's eyes widened in shock and fear. "Call off your men," Jack demanded, weapon trained on Westfield's head. "Now!" In the momentary stillness that followed, Yelena's voice cut through. "It's done. Full extraction complete." She held up a secure drive triumphantly, the precious evidence now safely downloaded. Beast's implant had yielded every detail of the conspiracy. The planning, the betrayal, the cover-up afterward. Irrefutable evidence captured from the perfect witness who had been present for it all. Through the windows, Jack spotted a figure breaking from the tree line, running toward the idling attack helicopter. Colonel Baranov, recognizing the mission, was compromised, attempting to escape. "Alexei!" Jack called, gesturing toward the fleeing figure. The Russian's face hardened as he spotted his former superior. "I'll handle Baranov. You secure the evidence." Without waiting for acknowledgement, Alexei was moving, slipping through a side exit in pursuit. Jack turned back to Westfield, still pinned beneath Beast's powerful form. "It's over, Colonel," Jack said quietly. "All of it." Through the lodge's broken windows, the storm had begun to clear, the first rays of sunrise breaking through, dissipating. Clouds, light, penetrating darkness, truth emerging after years of shadows. Outside, Alexei moved with predatory focus, tracking Baranov through the thinning trees. The colonel had nearly reached the helicopter, its rotors already spinning up for a hasty departure. 3 decades of operational experience had taught Alexei patience. He took position, steadied his breathing, and waited for the perfect shot. The bullet caught Baranov in the leg, sending him sprawling 10 meters short of the helicopter. As the colonel scrambled for his sidearm, Alexei emerged from cover, weapon trained on his former superior. "Alexei Volkov," Baranov said, his composure intact despite the wound. "The loyal dog who turned on his masters." "You speak of loyalty?" Alexei replied in Russian. "After sacrificing your own men at Frost Bridge." Baranov's expression hardened. "Necessary sacrifices for greater security. You used to understand such calculations. I understood duty, honor, not murder disguised as patriotism." The helicopter pilot, recognizing the mission's failure, made the pragmatic decision to save himself. The aircraft lifted away, abandoning Baranov to his fate. The colonel watched it go with cold resignation before turning back to Alexei. "What now, Alexei? You expose the operation, create an international incident. For what? Justice?" He spoke the last word with contempt. "For the men who died. For the truth." Alexei kept his weapon steady. "And for K7, who you treated as nothing more than equipment to be discarded." Back in the lodge, Jack secured Westfield with zip ties as Klein's operators took control of the scene, detaining the remaining attackers. Through his comm, Jack heard confirmation that Baranov had been apprehended. Beast remained at Jack's side, alert but calm despite the lingering effects of sedation. The dog's protective stance hadn't wavered, his loyalty now encompassing both. Jack and Yelena Dr. Klein herself arrived minutes later, stepping carefully through the debris-strewn lodge, her practical demeanor unchanged despite the combat zone she'd entered. "I see you started the party without me," she remarked dryly, surveying the damage. "Your timing was impeccable," Jack acknowledged, "though I'm curious about your resources." Klein smiled thinly. "Let's just say certain oversight committees take a dim view of rogue operations like Baranov and Westfield's, especially when they threaten to expose classified programs." She examined the secure drive Yelena had protected, nodding with satisfaction. "The complete memory extraction? Every moment Beast witnessed," Yelena confirmed. "From his initial training through Frost Bridge and afterward, the perfect, unimpeachable witness. And now we ensure the right people see it," Klein said, pocketing the drive, people who can act without political interference. As morning fully broke, the scene transformed from combat zone to secure operation. Medical personnel treated the wounded, attackers and defenders alike. Forensic teams documented evidence. Klein's operators maintained a professional perimeter. Alexei returned with Baranov in custody, the colonel's face a mask of cold fury as he was led past his former American counterpart. The two architects of the Frostbridge betrayal exchanged a brief, speaking glance, recognition of their shared downfall. "What happens to them?" Jack asked Klein. "Official channels, quiet prosecution, no public trials that might expose sensitive operations, but justice nonetheless." She studied Beast, who sat calmly between Jack and Alexei. "And for him, he stays with us," Jack said firmly, surprising himself with the plural pronoun. Alexei nodded in agreement. "He's earned his retirement." Klein considered this. "The neural implants will need to be properly deactivated. No more memory recording, no more remote capabilities." "I can perform the procedure," Yelena offered. "Remove the control functions, but leave his cognitive abilities intact." "And the evidence?" Alexei asked, gesturing to the secure drive. "We'll reach those who need to see it," Klein assured them. "The families of the fallen will know the truth, even if the public records remain classified." As the immediate crisis subsided, Jack found a moment of quiet with Beast, kneeling beside the dog who had changed his life so unexpectedly. Those intelligent amber eyes held understanding beyond ordinary animal consciousness, awareness of what they'd accomplished. "Together, you're just a dog," Jack murmured, scratching behind Beast's ears. "But you might have just changed history." Beast leaned into his touch, no longer the wary, aggressive animal from the shelter, no longer just a weapon or a piece of technology. Something more complex, a being who had recorded humanity's darkest impulses and yet somehow maintained his own capacity for loyalty and connection. Nearby, Alexei and Yelena conferred quietly, the shared experience having transformed enemies into allies. The past couldn't be undone, the dead couldn't be restored, but the truth, so long buried, had finally emerged into the light. And for Jack, that light held something he hadn't expected to find again: purpose. Not in combat or conflict, but in healing, in truth-telling, in second chances, for himself and for Beast.